My name is Alisoun Milne. I'm Professor of Social Gerontology and Social Work at the University of Kent. The focus of my presentation today is caring in later life, and I'm going to be arguing that the structural location and situations of this group of carers is a matter of social justice, and that supporting them and taking account of their concerns and needs should be a core dimension of social work practice. First, a word about family caring overall. Over the last 30 years, welfare policies in Western Europe have been underpinned by an assumption that people with dependency needs are best cared for by their relatives in the community. A long-term shift towards an ageing population, the continuing trend away from institutional care, and improvements in the lifelong health of those born with disabilities has resulted in a significant rise in the number of people who need support to live at home. Estimates suggest that about 13%, or 6.5 million, adults in the UK are carers, a figure that is 10% higher than it was in 2001. In fact, 3 in 5 adults will become a carer at some point in their lives. The economic value of family care is estimated to be £132 billion a year. It is instructive to note that as a comparative figure, the entire cost of the NHS in 2014-15 was just over £134 billion. Moving now to caring in later life. Nearly a third of all UK carers are aged 65 years and over. Not only are the number of older carers increasing as a proportion of the total, but the population of older carers is itself ageing. The number of carers aged 85 and over has doubled over the last decade and now stands at 87,000. Older carers have a distinctive profile. They disproportionately provide intensive levels of care, often doing personal care, such as toileting or bathing the person they're looking after, and also quasi-medical care, such as monitoring intravenous drips or medication or changing dressings. They also tend to provide care for a greater number of hours than other groups of carers. Over half of carers aged 85 and over provide 50 or more hours of care a week. Many also care over the longer term. A third of older carers have been caring for 10 or more years. Most older carers support an elderly spouse or a very elderly parent. If you're 65 and you count, as it were, as an older carer, then you're caring for a parent. That parent is going to be very elderly indeed. For spouse carers, the marital contract and shared life course are evidenced as underpinning commitment to providing care. Mutuality, interdependence, love, and a fear of separation are also very important issues. That 3/4 of all support to older people is by older people challenges the widely held view that older people exclusively consume care. The majority of the cared for population are older people with complex co-morbid conditions. Dementia is a defining dimension of caring in later life. Half of all older carers support a relative with dementia. Older carers are at significant risk of poor physical and mental health as a consequence of the nature and intensity of the caring activities and tasks. 2/3 of older carers have their own health problems, which are often exacerbated by caring. Things like lifting and handling, dressing, getting someone out of bed, up and down stairs. These all take their toll on the physical health of a carer and are also often stressful and anxiety-provoking. Caring also impacts profoundly on carers' quality of life. Many report feeling restricted, trapped, at home, isolated, and in a constant state of worry. And those caring long term are also at considerable risk of poverty. Often people are spending long hours at home with the cared for person, with the heating on, there's often extra laundry costs, and if you're receiving services for the cared for person, you often have to make a contribution. These all contribute to the carer's financial stress and strain. Many older carers, especially spouses, do not identify as carers, viewing their role as the normal role of a wife or a husband, part of the marital expectation, the marital deal. They also fear the intrusion of services, particularly the possible institutionalisation of their spouse. For these reasons, they often care unaided and cannot be assumed unproblematically to protect their own health and well-being. The off-the-radar position of many older carers, their vulnerability to ill health and poverty, and reluctance to ask for help are matters of social justice, in my view. Their disadvantaged status is further amplified by current fiscal and policy imperatives. The fact that fewer older people and fewer carers receive services now than was the case in 2008 as a consequence of cuts to social care budgets inevitably means that older carers are picking up an ever greater share of what I call the care tab. That consumer-orientated models of service allocation, such as direct payments, are ill-suited to older carers and those they support, is additionally relevant. Despite the much heralded parity that carers are meant to have under the recently implemented Care Act, policy guidance pays very little attention to older carers, placing much more emphasis on meeting the needs of working carers, young carers, as in children, and parent carers of disabled children. Although some older carers do come to the attention of local authorities, it is in far fewer numbers than survey evidence suggests should be the case. A policy system predicated on assumptions about the role of the family to care, snapshot, atomised assessments narrowly focused on eligibility for services, self-directed care and self-identification is failing to recognise the particular needs of older carers. The fact that the care contexts are increasingly characterised by complexity, chronic ill health, change and risk underscores a need for a different approach to assessment and service provision, an approach that engages with the embedded, relational and multidimensional nature of the issues. There is a growing body of evidence about what matters to older carers in terms of approaches to assessment and support. Most older carers view themselves and their needs inside their life course. It's part of their biography and in the context of a lifelong relationship. The process of care matters to older carers as much, if not more, than care outcomes. And they value time-rich assessments based on an established trust relationship with a knowledgeable professional who has therapeutic skills. Evidence suggests that sustainable, personalised packages of care are much more likely in contexts where the carer and the cared for person's perspectives are listened to and taking account of. Older carers often want a mix of help to navigate the complex and confusing health and care system, tailored advice regarding services, the law and planning for the future, and support that acknowledges their concerns and fears. For example, what will happen to the person I'm looking after if I was to die or become very ill? And also that engages with the challenges of caring, feelings of loss, frustration, sadness and anger, Dementia carers often describe the fact that their retirement years that they had great hopes for, them and their partner having retirement together, sharing holidays, have been stolen away from them by dementia, and they're very sad, and they feel the loss of that period of their later life. Older carers also need help to think about their own needs and rights, which, as I explained earlier, they don't un-problematically consider. That this needs set dovetails closely with the skill and knowledge set of a social worker, and that social work is concerned with addressing issues of social justice makes work with older carers a core social work activity. Although social work has a long tradition of working with families, and issues relating to caregiving lie at its very heart, there is limited recognition that older carers are a population that require and would benefit from social work expertise. There's been a significant reduction in the number of social workers employed in adult social care over the last decade, especially in services for older people and their carers. This is due in part to policy shifts, such as the introduction of direct payments mentioned earlier, and in part to an austerity-fueled drive to replace expensive care professionals with cheaper, less qualified staff. One of the consequences of this is a loss of social work practice with older carers and those they support. They come as a pair often. And an erosion of the rights of older carers to recognition, endorsement, care, support, understanding, status, and social justice. Thank you.